Imagine yourself on an ancient battlefield, facing an apparently insurmountable challenge. On one side, a colossal and fearsome giant, protected by impenetrable armor. On the other, a young shepherd, seemingly devoid of strength and weapons, but filled with courage and faith. In this video, we will explore the famous story of David and Goliath, a timeless narrative of courage, determination, and overcoming. Discover how an act of faith, combined with boldness and strategy, transformed a simple shepherd into a hero of faith. But before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and, if you enjoy the content, leave a like. The story begins with the Philistine army gathering its forces for war. On one side of a vast valley, the Philistines are portrayed as enemies of God, worshipping pagan deities and posing a threat to the Israelites, who occupy the opposite side of the valley. These Israelites are led by King Saul, known for his impressive stature, considered the tallest in Israel at the time. However, there was a man even taller than King Saul himself, a colossal figure known as Goliath. Goliath, standing nearly 3 meters tall, was completely covered in imposing battle armor, his presence feared and respected throughout the region, a formidable figure that struck deep fear into the hearts of the Israelites. Goliath advanced towards the Israeli forces, mocking loudly and openly challenging their God. He asserted that no one was as strong as him. Growing impatient with the Israelites' delay in making a decision, Goliath made an offer. "Why are you standing there in combat position? I am a Philistine, and you are Saul's slaves. Choose one of your men to fight me. If he wins and kills me, we will be your slaves. But if I prevail and kill him, you will be our slaves. I challenge the Israelite army. Send someone to fight me." 1 Samuel 17 verses 8 to 10. For 40 days, Goliath taunted the Israelites every morning and evening. These words only fueled panic among the Israelite army. Instead of fighting together against Goliath, a single man would have to face the giant's terrible force in a one-on-one duel. King Saul was the obvious candidate to face Goliath. Though not as tall as the giant, he was considered competent. However, he lacked the courage to confront Goliath. It is at this moment that David enters the story. A young shepherd with no extraordinary height, robust muscles, or reputation as a warrior, he was the son of a man named Jesse from Bethlehem. David's 3 older brothers had followed Saul to the battle in the valley, and his father gave him the mission to bring food and good news to his brothers during the war. When David arrived at the battlefield with supplies, he found the 2 armies facing off in the valley. While searching for his brothers, David heard Goliath uttering his usual insults against God and observed the Israelite army cowering before him. Through the worried murmurs of the Israelite army, David knew that King Saul was desperate to rid himself of the giant Goliath. Saul was willing to offer any reward to whoever defeated him, including his daughter's hand in marriage and exemption from taxes. These promises of rewards motivated David hesitated to act until he heard about the rewards, which could be seen as a selfish act. However, most agreed that David acted according to God's plan and had already been chosen by God to eventually succeed King Saul, whom he was dissatisfied with. When David presented himself to King Saul to make his bold statement, the king was unimpressed. He did not believe that a simple shepherd boy could be a competent fighter against a monster like Goliath. Saul likely saw little chance of success for David. Additionally, if David were to lose, Saul would lose his entire kingdom to the Philistines. The king was also uncomfortable with the idea of sending an innocent youth to face Goliath, which would surely result in a massacre. However, David managed to convince Saul to allow him to fight by sharing a story of how he had faced a lion and a bear threatening his father's sheep. David explained how he defeated these creatures by seizing them by the hair and overcoming them. He emphasized that these victories were granted to him by God and that God would also make him victorious against Goliath. Impressed by David's narrative, Saul agreed to let him fight. He even clothed David with his own tunic and gave him the best armor and a high-quality sword. However, when David tried to move with that armor and sword, he found them too heavy and uncomfortable. Therefore, he chose to face Goliath without protection or armor. David calmly chose 5 small stones from the ground and placed them in his shepherd's bag. With a sling in hand, he marched toward the valley and approached Goliath. Like Saul, Goliath was unimpressed by the slim youth approaching. In fact, Goliath was offended by the challenge presented to him. Referring to David's sling, Goliath declared that David was no match for him. David calmly told Goliath that he would win the duel with the power of his God. He stated that he would cut off Goliath's head and that he would pay for the crimes he had committed against the people of Israel and against God. David affirmed that Goliath's corpse would be left to be devoured by the animals. Unable to bear such an insult, Goliath advanced toward David. To Goliath's surprise, David courageously advanced to face him. He took one of the stones from his bag and hurled it with such speed that it hit Goliath squarely on the forehead, knocking him to the ground. The valley fell silent, and everyone watched in admiration as David stood over the victorious giant. However, David was not finished. He continued by decapitating the giant with his own sword. This savage act caused the Philistine army to flee. Unfortunately for them, the Israelite army pursued them, plundering their camps and massacring their troops. It was a great victory for the Israelites. Given that the Philistines had been their primary enemies for many decades, we need to emulate David, to have the courage and faith to confront the giants that arise to challenge the army of the living God. Our trust needs to be in God and not in ourselves, thus fostering a close relationship with Him. David was certain that God would deliver him because he had done so on other occasions. You need to have victorious experiences stored in your memory so that when you face a tough moment, these memories fuel your faith. Experiences with God are individual. Don't seek to have the same experiences as others, have your own. God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the chosen. It wouldn't be that armor protecting David from the giant, but the Lord. When we trust in God, He Himself provides us with the weapons to overcome. If you already knew the story of David and Goliath, comment below, and if you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. God bless you.